Hey hey guys, welcome back. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving week with your family. So last week we discussed that, there was a potential to fill this gap. We didn't exactly fill it completely, right? We kind of fell 7 points short. So it is possible that we do kind of have that higher push, right? Higher this week before we actually kind of have that downturn move. And we discussed two potential paths, right? Number one is if this was where your B wave was likely ending right after the gap fill, we would, kind of come down to, fill a gap here at 4420, maybe have an oversold bounce, and then, come down to fill this gap at 4250, right? The C wave could end anywhere between 4250 to, 3800. So it's just a matter of time to see which kind of, the market wavelength we're kind of progressing in. So this is one potential path, and the next potential path we discussed was a more bullish one, wherein this is our 1, right? 3, 4, finishing of 5 would come down for an ABC retrace, right? Before it progresses higher for a new all-time high. Again, right? We know the market is pretty overbought, right? We haven't really had a pullback since, the market took off in November. So coming down to fill this gap seems like the most obvious intermittent move, right? But with that being said, sometimes obvious moves don't exactly play out, right? For all we know, we could, right, just break this 4,600, right? And then continue pushing higher to the top of the channel. We know that all-time highs was like 4750. So we could try to target that. So yeah, kind of just keep levels in mind. If we do take 4,600, right, there isn't a lot of gap higher. So as long as we reject this, only then, we're going to come test the lower gap. So let's kind of look at the dollar. My Wi-Fi's kind of being pretty slow right now, so just bear with me, kind of while the charts just load. All right, so the dollar, last we spoke, we mentioned this like 104.5 level would kind of be important. And obviously we didn't hold, right? We kind of like rejected that level, had to sell off down to 103. We bounced and again had to sell off. So I mean, if we do zoom out, right, bigger picture, this is still where the previous wave one ended. So, I mean, I did give 104 as the level, but this is honestly your line in the sand. If you are a dollar bull, right, you just need to, see the dollar, kind of pick up above this 103 area, right, and kind of push higher. Otherwise, right, if it, kind of like breaches this support level right here, any bounce will likely just be an oversold, right? And then we got more selling in the dollar, and that could, indicate more market bullishness. So that's kind of why the dollar is important here. Let's look at the 10-year yield next. So the 10-year, so let's just wait. The channel will probably take a minute to load because my Wi-Fi is just being an ass right now. But yeah, I mean, till it loads, I'm just going to show you that, if we just were to draw a channel, right, you can see this is where the support level is for the 10 years. So we have, I mean, we did breach the channel, right, which I said there we go. See, kind of loaded. Yeah, my Wi-Fi is just an ass. But yeah, anyway, so you can see that I did say that, it could come down all the way to 4.28%. So yeah, from now, right, the yields again have two potential paths. Either it's going to have an oversold bounce, right, which means market weakness before it comes down, or, right, it's going to be the start of a new leg, kind of like the dollar. They both probably move in the same direction, right? So this is kind of what I have for the yields, and kind of, keep in mind, like when I discuss the watch list, right, what's going to happen. Anyway, so let's look at the first one this week. And the reason I have this is because it did have an inside week, right? And generally inside weeks tend to lead to more volatile weeks. And yeah, it's probably gonna take a minute to load. All right, yeah, as you can see here, right, on Airbnb. Okay, I guess it just, I don't know why TradingView is being an ass. Yeah, see, finally decides to load all my lines. But yeah, anyway, so as you can see here, this either could be your ABC, right? Starting another, another ABC to the upside, or this, right? We're still in the progression of the C wave, right? Which means that this entire thing could have been your, wave one, wave two, wave three, wave four, wave five. So yeah, it's kind of why, I drew this trend line. As so you can see here, we've kind of been sideways in the structure. So if we can break over 131, right, we have a gap to fill at 137. So that would be a nice, move to the upside. And that is if we break higher, right? If we reject this gap fill, right, and we gap down, so you can see here again, if I zoom out, you can see this is pretty much where we had, trend line support. We're pretty much standing at the underside. So if we gap up, right, we're very much going to fill this upside space. And if we reject, then you can see here we have a gap lower to like 119, right? So I would say below 127, we likely come down to like 119. So are kind of your bull and bear levels on Airbnb, right? And similarly, Etsy, I don't think I had Etsy on this week's watch list. Yeah, I did. Okay. Etsy is another candidate, right, with an inside week. Give it a couple of seconds to load. Yeah. As you can see here, Etsy did have, kind of have a very extensive downtrend, right? All the way to the downside. And now it's trying to, kind of establish a base, right, for a bottom, trying to push higher. Obviously, it's got, multiple gaps to the upside. This was a very large, you know, news gap, not an earnings gap. It had earnings somewhere there, but yeah, has a very large gap here. So it's kind of what I have for Etsy, right? You can see here again, it's been sideways, kind of very similar to Airbnb, right? If Etsy breaks over, 73, then it's very likely, going to go run up to like 77, 78. And if it breaks down, below 70, then very likely, comes down to 66 and has a gap at 63. So both ways on Etsy, right? Another candidate for an inside week, right? Against a very important level. You can see that we've broken the downtrend, right? And we've broken another trend and we're kind of just consolidating. So if it does break over 73, 73.5, right, should easily run up to like 78. And same way, right? If it rejects and breaks this, channel lower, should easily come fill this gap down. So that's the reason, I had Etsy on this week's watch list as well. The next one I have is Boeing. And again, the reason for that is I think it's more likely to kind of sell off, compared to other stocks. So let's give this a moment to load. Yeah, as you can see here, we haven't, since, 25th of October, since it had earnings, we haven't really, had a moment to even cool down. So whether I was bullish or bearish, I do think that, a slight, cool down is very reasonable thing to expect, right? This is, even if I was bullish, right, this is kind of what I would expect the potential path to be like, right? So, I mean, that's still, almost a 10-point gap down. So it's the reason I have Boeing on the two sources. I think if we stay below 221, 222, right, we could, come down to retest demand at 212, 210 at least, right, before it kind of decides whether it wants to, bounce and go higher or bounce and, come fill this lower gap. So yeah, that's why I had Boeing on this week's watch list. And last but not the least, we have I think China could do especially, right? I think we could see some volatile moves in China this week. But yeah, I kind of had win. It is again another like kind of like a very aggressive sold off play, right? That's trying to bottom and reverse higher. So yeah, let's give it a minute for the chart to load. Yeah, you can see here, since June, we've kind of been in a downtrend, right? And actually, we've kind of been in a downtrend since April of this year. So it's kind of just trying to have some kind of bounce, whether it's oversold or trying to base for a new high, right? You can see here, this is the current channel of win. So honestly, right now it does have a, kind of a gap to fill up to 90.5. So it's pretty simple. If we can, get over 88, then we're pretty much going to, run up to the top of this channel, right, on win. And we kind of have, kind of broken this downtrend as well. So yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, if it can hold over 87, then probably comes down to the lower channel at 81. All right, guys. Thank you so much. That's all I got for this week. My Wi-Fi is pretty horrible. But yeah, thank you.